It is officially sweater season here in Colorado. I have made this incredible granny square sweater. I have been seeing these all over my Pinterest, and it's been on my to make list for at least a year or so. This was a very fast sweater project. This took me about three or 4 days to get it all done. I have listed all the, I almost said ingredients, all of the items that you will need to complete this project. I used pretty much all like big box craft store yarn, so it should be pretty easy to source. Now I have a 6-foot wingspan, and so the sleeves are long on me. So just keep that in mind. You can make the same size as me, but I will also give suggestions on how to make it fit you best. So let's get into the tutorial. I just want to go over a few things before we dive in, because this will be helpful in determining how many squares you want to make. You will either need 12 or 16 squares, and that will be determined on how long you want your sleeves. The sleeves, as I have them, was 16 squares total for my piece. The sleeves are very long, so if you don't have long arms like I do, you might want to just do 12 squares and have your piece like this. For reference, this seam, or where your piece would end if you did the 12, hit about right here, right above my Apple Watch. You can make 12 regular squares, and then you would need 4 half squares. Your final option would be to take off rows of the squares, but I recommend that you do this uniformly, because otherwise these seams are not going to link up. Now that we've gone over sizing, let's dive in on how to create your squares. This is almost a traditional granny square. There's a few things to note. I use this super fluffy yarn for the center, and because it was so fluffy, it was curving my piece in a weird way. So I actually ended up modifying how I start this granny square, which I will show you. If you're using normal, not so fluffy yarn, and you already know how to make a traditional granny square, you can go ahead and skip to this timestamp where I will show you how to assemble your granny squares together. Your finished granny squares should measure these measurements. We are going to start with this fluffy inside, and again, if you're using a different yarn than me for this interior, I will also show you how to adjust this inside for making a very straightforward granny square. So let's start with how I am making these granny squares here. So we are going to be making this modified center. I'll show you how to do that first. For this tutorial, I'm actually going to be using this fluffy yarn because it's going to be much easier to see my stitches instead of this fluffy yarn, which basically hides all of my stitches. To make a magic circle, you're going to take your yarn like this, and you want the little tail on your palm. You're gonna pinch that little tail, and then take your working yarn, or the yarn that's attached to your skein, wrap over the top of your 2 fingers. Then you're going to cross over where you're pinching that little tail. You're gonna cross behind so that it looks like this. So you've made a little cross. This is your working yarn, this is your tail. After I have this shape, I will pinch where those 2 yarns are crossing over so that I can let go of my working yarn. Your working yarn should still be behind that original first loop that you made. Then you're going to take your hoop. You are going to line it up in this crevice between your 2 fingers. You're going to slide under that first loop that you're pinching
and you are going to pull this working yarn underneath that tight yarn. So you should be able to slide your working yarn back and forth, but you've made a loop. Keep your hook through that loop, and you're going to tighten. You're going to tighten that a little bit. And this is the scary part, but I promise it should all stay together. You're going to let go of where you're pinching. Now, because I've let go of where I was pinching before, I'm going to pick up my working yarn, and now I'm going to pinch this loop so that I can kind of tighten this working yarn now. All right, you are going to chain 1. Now you have really secured things. Things are a lot easier at this point. All right, so that's your magic circle. Now you're gonna start crocheting into your magic circle. To start, you're going to chain 2 more. So now you have 3 chains, and that is going to basically be your first double crochet. You're going to chain 1 more. All right, so now you should have a total of 4. You're going to yarn over, and then you're gonna pull a loop. You're gonna wrap it around all of this mess that's happening in your magic circle, and you're gonna make a double crochet. All right, so basically what you have now is into that magic circle, your first stitch, a chain 2, and another double crochet. We want to chain 2 more, make another double crochet right around all of that in your magic circle. Okay, now we have 2 spaces and 3 double crochets. You're going to chain 2 more, 1 more double crochet. You now have 3 spaces. You chain 2 more. Zip this up by pulling that little tail. And then you are going to slip stitch into this first chain space. So just stab through that first space that you made, and slip stitch, chain 1, and then you'll bind off as normal. So it makes this square here of 4 spaces, and each of those spaces will be your corners that you will start putting increases into as we go into the next row. If you want to see a normal center being made, I will link that right here. And essentially you're going to do the same thing, but instead of your single double crochet and then chain 2, you're going to have 3 double crochets and a chain 1. And then once you have made your 3 corners with 3 double crochets in between each chain 1, you will chain 1 again and slip stitch. Instead of into that first chain 1 space, you'll slip stitch into just that beginning double crochet that you started the round with. So I have a much more detailed tutorial of this already posted on my channel, so I will link that here. But here is what my normal granny square center would look like if you're not using the extra fluffy yarn. So make a center however you wish, and then meet me back for round 2. So basically in those chain spaces, our 4 corners, we're going to be putting 2 granny clusters, which each cluster is 3 double crochets, and those 2 clusters are going to be separated by a chain 1. So we should have a chain 1 in each of our 4 corners and 2 granny clusters in each of our 4 corners. Since this was much thinner than a lot of my other yarns, I am holding this double. So holding it double to start. This is how I like to attach my yarn. You can use a different method if you want. Basically, I am going to make a slip knot. Take your tail, again, similar to how we did our magic circle. Instead of doing this whole twist situation, I do it faster. Here's my working yarn. I'm going to kind of make a loop where my working yarn crosses over that tail that I'm pinching. I'm gonna pinch that all together. I'm gonna take my working yarn again, and I'm going to pull a loop through, and then I'm gonna take my tail while still holding that loop I just made, pull it, and now you should have a slip knot where you can pull your working yarn to tighten or loosen that knot. Take your row 1, stab it through one of those 4 corners spaces. Put your yarn on your hook and tighten up that slip knot. You are going to pull that loop through and chain 1 to secure your yarn in place. All right, your first stitch will be 2 more chains. That counts as your first double crochet. All right, you're gonna put 2 double crochets into that spot. 1, 2. So now I've got my first granny cluster, that chain 2 that counted as my first double crochet, and 2 double crochets. I'm going to chain 1 for my corner, chain 1 space, and I'm going to put another granny cluster, aka 3 more double crochets into that same space. Now, some people will tell you to chain for the sides of your granny square as well. I don't like this. I think it makes a sloppy looking granny square. So I do not chain here. I only put chains for my corners. So I just finished my 3rd double crochet of my 2nd cluster in that first corner. I'm going to yarn over, and I'm just going to start my next double crochet right in that next chain 2 space from my first row. And I'm going to put 3 double crochets in total into that next corner. I'm going to chain 1 for my new corner and 3 more double crochets into that exact same space. All right, let's pause and show you what that looks like now. So here are my chain 1s. Those are my new corners, and there is kind of a gap here, but I didn't chain there. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 granny clusters, each comprised of 3 double crochets. All right, so this is our side. These are our corners. You can kind of see the square is starting to take shape. It will get more square-like as we add more rows. I'm going to go to the next chain 2 space and make 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Chain 1 for my corner, 3 more double crochets into that same spot. That's our 3rd corner that we just made. And we need to go into this last chain 2 space to make our 4th corner. We're going to double crochet right into it. 2 more. 3 double crochets, chain 1, last 3 double crochets into that same space, 2, 3, and now we need to close off that row. So again, some people will tell you to go into these chains of our first stitch, but I don't think it affects it much and it makes my life easier. So I'm gonna go into this first stitch. That's much easier to work into, and just put a slip stitch, chain 1, and I will cut my yarn. Got our 4 corners into those 4 chains 2 spaces from our first row. And now this next row will start to show you what the rest of the rows are going to look like, either working into our 4 corners or into those side spaces. In those side spaces that we made, we will be working 1 granny cluster, and into those chain 1 spaces, or those 4 corners, we'll be making a granny cluster, a chain 1, and another granny cluster. So you're increasing basically at each corner to get the square to the right size. Each row from now on will increase by 1 chain space on each of the 4 flat sides. You are going to start this 3rd row the same way you did the 2nd row, by making a slip knot with your new yarn. All right. I like to attach my yarn now into a side space. So you can pick any side space, it really doesn't matter, but I just don't like starting in the corner. You're going to stab in between that space that was created when you finished your granny cluster and started a new one. Should be a little gap. You're gonna attach your yarn, pull through, chain 1. Now you're gonna make your first double crochet, chain 2, that counts as your first double crochet. You're going to make 2 more double crochets, 1, 2, into that space. That's 1 granny cluster on the side. Next, we're gonna work into that corner chain 1 space. So we're gonna do in the corner 2 granny clusters, so 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3. Now since it's a corner, we have to do that increase. So we chain 1 to keep our corner space, and we're gonna put that other granny cluster or 3 double crochets into that same space. There's your first corner and your first side. Next, we have another side space. And this is where we actually cast it off from the last row. So I like to work in my ends as I go. Basically how I do that is I'm just gonna crochet over this little tail here. So I'm gonna double crochet right through that gap and on top of my tail from the last row. I put 3 double crochets over it. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. That's what it looks like from the back. So I can just clip off that tail. If I feel like I need to work it in more, I will, but at least it's pretty secured. So now we've got one side, one corner, another side. Now we have another corner. So those 2 clusters, 1 double crochet, 2, 3. This is a corner now, so we need to make our chain 1 and 3 more double crochets in that same space. 1, 2, and 3. Perfect. Now we've got another side. So 3 double crochets into that side space. 2, 3. And we've got another corner now. So 2 clusters and a chain 1, 1, 2, 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 more double crochet, 1, 2, and 3. This side space, last one, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Last corner space here. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, last granny cluster, 1, 2, 3, and we just need to close it all off. So I'm going to go into the little stitch up here, slip stitch, chain 1, cut your yarn, pull through. So now you've completed a row where you are working both corners and sides. We are going to continue to do that for the rest of our granny square. This next row, our 4th row, you will still work your 4 corners with that granny cluster, chain 1 granny cluster. And then on your sides, you will now have 2 of those side spaces instead of just the 1, because you increased in those 4 corners. So each side, like I said, we've got 2 here for the next row. There will be 3 more for the following row, 4, 5, and keep going depending on how many rows you have. So I will show you one more row and then we will meet back once you have finished all of your squares. For reference, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows in total. Again, make your slip knot, stab into one of those side spaces, grab your knot and your working yarn, pull it through, chain 1, chain 2 more for that first stitch, and then place 2 double crochets into that same space. Now we've got a corner. So again, granny cluster of 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, 3 more double crochets into that same corner, chain 1 space, 1, 2, 3, done. Next, we've got a side space, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Like I said, there's going to be two side spaces here because we increased. So we need to put 1 cluster of 3 double crochets in there. 1, 2, 3. Got another corner. 1 cluster of 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, now we chain 1, put 3 more in there. 1, 2, 3 more double crochets. Now I've got 1 corner, 2 corner, 2 clusters, 2 more side spaces here. So 1, 2, 3 double crochets into that first side space, 3 more into the next. 1, 2, and 3. And we've reached another corner. So 1, 2, 3, chain 1, 3 more. 1, 2, 3. Another side space from my tail, so I'm going to pull that to the right and double crochet around it. 1, 2, 3. Next side space. 1, 2, 3. Last corner, y'all. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1 for that corner and 3 more. 1, 2, and 3. And our last side space here, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3, and connect it to that first cluster we made by slip stitching through that first visible stitch. So the next row, I'm going to work 1 cluster in each of those sides, 2 with the single crochet into this corner, and do that for the rest of the sides and the corners. So you should continue to increase those side spaces with each round. Pause the video and come back once you have made 16 squares measuring this amount each. So I have stacked 2 squares with wrong sides facing together in the design of my sweater. We are going to seam all of these together. I am first going to connect these front panels. I'm going to connect these 2 together on this seam and these 2 together on this seam so that we have this flap. So let's connect those. You're gonna want wrong sides facing in because we are going to be making a visible single crochet seam for the connection of these. If you want to use a mattress stitch or a slip stitch to join these together, feel free, but I, staying true to the original inspiration, like the more visible seam for this project. And we are just going to place a single crochet in each of these V's or stitches along one side of our piece to start. So I'm actually going to
start at one corner here. Instead of starting in this stitch though, personally, I really like to start in the last stitch of the other side of the corner, because if you start in this stitch, I find that your square stops looking quite as square as it can. So stab through that and then make sure you're stabbing through the same stitch on the other side. So that would be this one. I've got my single crochet or my chain stitch and then my 3 doubles. All right, so you should have something that looks like this. You should be a pro at making a slip stitch by now. Make that slip stitch, put it on your yarn and tighten it. And now we are just going to single crochet through these stitches. So I'm gonna pull through, chain 1. Now I'm gonna stab just through that chain 1 space. And that will be my first single crochet. Again, make sure you're just stabbing through the same stitch on the opposite side. All right, that's what that looks like. So just keep lining up your stitches and meet me back when you're on the other side. All right, I have single crocheted the last granny square cluster of this side. I now am at that corner chain 1 space. Same thing, I'm going to single crochet that corner chain 1 space. And then in that next double crochet, I'm going to slip stitch and bind off. You should have this ridge and your edges should look like one continuous straight line. All right, we're gonna do this one more time for that other panel, front panel, and then we will start connecting the back. So we've connected this seam between these 2 front squares. These are going to be a little flap, right? So you can actually pull these to the side for a sec. We now need to make this big back panel. To do this, we're going to seam here to connect these 2 and these 2, and then seam 1, big seam down the middle back. We're gonna start by making 2 more of the same panels that we just did. So I've got my wrong sides facing together and I'm gonna seam down this one side. Same thing for this other 2. And then I will show you how to make the big seam down the back to connect these 4 all together. So I have now done my 2 panels. Okay, so we've connected these seams. Now we need one big seam going like this. So instead of folding them this way, I'm gonna take the corners of these 2 squares and the corners of these 2 squares so that they are wrong sides facing in. And we are going to connect the same way we did here, but we are going to do it across both of them in one continuous line instead of stopping. So we're gonna start over here in this corner. Same thing, stab into the 3rd stitch of that first granny cluster of your corner and attach your yarn. And we're gonna stitch all the way across, same as before.
Once we get to that center seam, I will show you what I'm going to do there. I'm getting to my center seam here. So these should be matching up. I've got this last double crochet to work into. So I'm going to do that. One side and the other side. So now this whole side is connected and we're going to keep going for this other side. Put one single crochet through that chain one space, one through that center seam. A little tricky. And then another one into that other chain space, and then go start into your third, or your first stitch of your granny cluster on the other side. I'm just going to continue to seam down the rest of this side. It should all match up still, and you know, slip stitch and bind off the same as I did for all of my other squares so far, and then we should have a panel of 4. Here's our back piece all connected. These front pieces will go like this, back again. We need to connect this one to this one and this one to this one. So I'm going to start by connecting these two together on one side, and then I'll have another panel of 2 that looks kind of like this. And then I will connect that to our front flap along this line. And then I'll do that on the exact other side. So make a panel of 2. And then once I have that panel of 2, I will connect it to that to make this L shape. Something to look for is that all of your little seams are laying in the same direction. I am going to seam from here to here, and then from here to here. I just finished that first front flap seam. Started here, ended here, and you can see this back side of my single crochets that I just made is laying flat just as the other one is. So then for this side, you're going to have to flip it. So for this one, I want my back side to be on this side. Pick it up like this. And I'm going to start at the top and go into the armpit instead. So now we just need to connect the back pieces in the same way. So again, making sure that that seam is facing the direction you had it for the front. Same thing for the sleeves. I want my to go from here to here and from here to here. My back piece is completely connected. I've got 2 sleeves. All my seams are going in the right direction. I'm going to take this back piece and flip it wrong side up. I'm going to lay down my front pieces to match. Now for the really fun part. You're going to make 2 big seams. So to get my seams to, again, all line up, I want this back side facing forward. So to get the back side facing forward, I'm going to start on this end and I'm going to seam all the way in. I'm going to try it on and determine how much space I want to leave for my neck. We're going to start on that side, go into here, and I'll let you know where I stop, and then we will mirror that starting from this side and going to the other side.
I just tried my piece on. I kind of just draped the sleeve over my arm to make sure that the length was good and that I was liking how this neckline worked out. I ended up stopping with 1, 2, and then the corner. So I just slip stitched into the first double crochet of this cluster, and then I left a little extra on the tail in case I want to go in any further. And I'm going to start in the same place that I stopped on this panel. And I'm just going to crochet, single crochet all the way down the top of this other side. And then I'm going to try it on again. I'm obsessed. So that's what that would look like if you attached a half. Here she is. Essentially, all we have to do is seam up this side. So I will show you how to do that and show you how to finish her. 2 more seams to go. The final seam that you will make is going to be 1 continuous seam from there to here. Again, you're going to be going from the back. So actually, let me flip this around. Okay, so we want that wrong side facing the front of your single crochets, here to here, and then here to there. And then all your seams are done, and we'll just put the finishing touches on, and then you get to wear it. So now that you have connected these bottom seams, your piece should be completely seamed together. Go ahead and try it on. I tried mine on, and I actually had a little bit too much space around my neckline, so I went back and connected a little bit further. The other thing you're going to want to do is figure out what type of closure you want to add to your front. I used this single tie. I played around with like ties, 3 ties, but it just kind of distracted too much from the piece. For my tie, honestly, you can have it without the tie closure, or you could just sew like a ribbon on or another type of string, or maybe you just grab a bunch of your leftover yarn and make a big single crochet or chain for each side and attach that to the inside. But I really like how this chunky Icord turned out. So I took the same yarn and I actually knit these Icords. I will link a tutorial on how to crochet an Icord, but personally I just think that knitting them is easier for me. For reference, I used 5 stitches to make this size of an Icord, and I used the same size knitting needle, an 8mm, to make both of these. They're each about 12 inches in length, and then I just sewed them down to the inside of this center seam, and that's really stable and sturdy. And then you can tie it like so. Once I attached everything, I went ahead and wove in my end. And then the last thing that I did was throw this in the dryer on like a regular heat setting for about an hour, I would say. And I did that because my sleeves actually did come out just slightly longer than I wanted them to. And so I was trying to see if I needed to take off a whole square or like do the half square, or if I could just get it to kind of tighten up. And it definitely tightened up quite a bit in the dryer, so I'm happy with the fit now. My latte art. I'm not very good